This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Follow me.
Take off a mask when it stops being a mask, when it's as much a part of me as I am.
Since 1871, the United States President and the United States Congress has been playing politics under a different set of rules and policies. The American people do not know that there are two constitutions in the United States. The first penned by the leaders of the newly independent states of the United States in 1776. On July 4, 1776, the people claimed their independence from Britain and a constitutional republic was born. And for 95 years the United States people were free and independent. That freedom ended in 1871 when the original Constitution for the United States of America was changed to the Constitution of the United States of America. The Congress realized that the country was in dire financial straits, so they made a financial deal with international bankers, none other than at the time, the Rothschilds of London, thereby incurring a debt to said bankers. However, the international bankers were not about to lend the floundering nation any money without stipulations. So, they devised a way of taking back control of the United States, and thus, the Act of 1871 was passed. With no constitutional authority to do so, Congress created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia, also known as Washington, D.C. With the passage of the Act of 1871, a city-state, a state within a state, called the District of Columbia or Washington, D.C., located on 10 square miles of land in the heart of Virginia, was formed with its own flag and its own independent constitution, the United States' secret Second Constitution. The flag of Washington's District of Columbia has 3 red stars, each symbolizing a city-state within the 3-city empire. The 3-city empire consists of Washington, D.C., London, and Vatican City. London is the corporate center of the 3 city-states and controls the world economically. Washington's District of Columbia city-state is in charge of the military, and the Vatican controls it all under the guise of spiritual guidance. Although geographically separate, the city-states of London, the Vatican and the District of Columbia are one interlocking empire called Empire of the City. The Constitution for the District of Columbia operates under Vatican law by lex fori. The entire economic and judicial system of the corporate United States, and indeed most of modern world, operates under maritime admiralty law. The Admiralty law system, which presently dominates all nations of the world, is a system secretly set up to contradict libertarian constitutional common law, also known as law of the land. What is Admiralty? Commercial law or law of the sea. A corporation under International Maritime Admiralty Law, Uniform Commercial Code, based upon Vatican canon law and perfected by the Roman Empire. One should also note that Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Bavarian Illuminati, was a professor of canon law and a Jesuit. The Admiralty law system, commercial law or law of the sea, was secretly set up by Rome through Scottish Rite Freemasonry and Papal, Admiral Pope-epic knighthoods. The Admiralty law system is a system designed to enforce a number of Rome's papal bulls, decrees of the Pope of Rome. England broke free from some of the Pope's temporal power, political, economic and worldly power. In 1215, when the Magna Carta, an English common law document, constitution became the basis for law in England. This incident could also be considered as a minor Protestant Reformation, as according to author Eric John Phelps, the Roman Catholic priests who supported this fair and libertarian law document were defrocked and deemed apostate by Rome. This law document gave England the most liberty out of all nations on earth, because at this time, every nation on earth was submitted to the Pope and Rome. The monarchies over each nation were servants of the Pope, who simply enforced the Pope's worldwide temporal power. This is known as the Dark Ages. In the 1500s, during the beginning of the Protestant Reformation, where common people began reading the Bible for themselves, and realized the Pope was seeking to steal the office of God and Christ, many common citizens in Europe started breaking away from the temporal, political, economic and worldly, and spiritual, occult, power of the Pope. Rome started losing control of Europe and the revenue and tributes that went along with it. It was during this Reformation time that resulted in the Bible being printed for the common people. During the Dark Ages, reading of the Bible was forbidden by Rome, as it would have exposed the Vatican as a false satanic religion trying to steal the office of God. This Protestant Reformation peaked in 1648, when the modern era was declared, and many nations in Europe broke away from the Vatican, and actually had true liberty. This liberty consisted of spiritual liberty in having the true Bible in their own language, which made them realize that the Roman Catholic Church was a lie. With the spiritual liberty came their political, economic and worldly liberty as well. Many Protestant nations in Europe and in the United States implemented constitutional law based on the Magna Carta that nullified the Pope's power. During the early years of the United States, and during the true Protestant years in certain nations in Europe, many of these countries had true liberty and freedom. These countries for some years were free from the Roman Admiralty law system. After the Pope lost much of his power during the Protestant Reformation, the Jesuits, who were a revived form of the Templars and Spanish Illuminati, began using Scottish Rite Freemasonry and papal knighthoods to secretly install Admiralty law upon the nations of the world, regaining the Pope's temporal power. This is known as the Counter-Reformation, which also consisted of the Jesuits secretly using the above societies to infiltrate and subvert the Protestant churches. These two missions of the Jesuits related to regaining the spiritual and temporal power of the Pope. Unfortunately today, most nations are submitted to the Jesuit order and Pope through the Admiralty law system, secretly set up by the Jesuits through the above-mentioned societies. You may recognize the Jesuits' power of today by simply observing their movement, the movement known as Zionism. They have their own state, Israel, started by none other than the Rothschild family. The state's flag even bears the star present on not only the old Rothschild coat of arms, but it's also present on the modern coat of arms. Interestingly, both the star and the colors used, blue and white, are found on the Rothschild coat of arms. The helmets, among other meanings, also represent the three-city empire. If the symbology isn't enough a proof for you that the state of Israel is in reality the state of Rothschild, look no further than this document, known as the Balfour Declaration. Now back to the United States. When Congress passed the Act of 1871, it created a separate corporation known as the United States, in all caps, and corporate government for the District of Columbia. This treasonous act has unlawfully allowed a District of Columbia to operate as a corporation outside the original Constitution of the United States and in total disregard of the best interests of the American citizens. In fact, a U.S. citizen is considered a resident alien of the District of Columbia. However, under the law of the land, you are a citizen of state in which you were born. POTUS is the chief executive, president, of the Corporation of the United States, operating as any other CEO of the corporation, governs with a board of directors, cabinet officials, and managers, senators, Congress, Trump as others before him, is POTUS. operating as vassal king, taking orders once again from the City of London through the RIA, Royal Institute of International Affairs. The popularly termed Illuminati, founded by the Society of Jesuits, the largest Roman Catholic religious military order headed by the Black Pope, created the Royal Institute of International Affairs, RIIA, in 1919. The American equivalent to the RIA is the Council of Foreign Relations, CFR. And on a side note, the rising puppet political star Tulsi Gabbard is a member of the CFR. The RIA and CFR set up roundtable groups. What did the Act of 1871 achieve? The Act of 1871 put the United States back under British rule, which is under Vatican rule. We like to say Americans lost their independence in 1913, but in fact, the precise date the United States people lost their independence is 1871. The Constitution of the United States of America, in all caps, is the Constitution of the Incorporated United States of America, in all caps. It operates in an economic capacity and has been used to fool the people into thinking it governs the Republic. It does not. Capitalization is not insignificant when one is referring to a legal document. This seemingly minor alteration has had a major impact on every subsequent generation of Americans. What Congress did by passing the Act of 1871 was create an entirely new document, a constitution for the government of the District of Columbia, an incorporated government. Instead of having absolute and unalienable rights guaranteed under the organic constitution, we the people now have relative rights or privileges. One example is one's right to travel, which has now been transformed, under corporate government policy, into a privilege that requires citizens to be licensed, driver's licenses and passports. By passing the Act of 1871, Congress committed treason against the people who were sovereign under the grants and decrees of the Declaration of Independence and the Organic Constitution. The Act of 1871 became the foundation of all the treason since committed by government officials. As of 1871, the United States isn't a country, it's a corporation. In preparation for stealing America, the puppets of Britain's banking cabal had already created a second government, a shadow government designed to manage what the people believed was a constitutional republic, but what it really was an incorporated democratic United States. Democracy was a system loathed and downright hated by founding fathers of the United States. Together this chimera, this two-headed monster, disallowed the people all rights of sui juris. You, in your sovereignty. The USA is a crown colony. The US has always been and remains a British crown colony. King James I is not just famous for translating the Bible into the King James Version, but for signing the first Charter of Virginia in 1606, which granted America's British forefathers license to settle and colonize America. The charter guaranteed future kings, queens of England would have sovereign authority over all citizens and colonized land in America. After America declared independence from Great Britain, the Treaty of Paris, signed on September 3, 1783 was signed. That treaty identifies the King of England as Prince of US Prince George III, by the grace of God, King of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, Defender of the Faith, Duke of Brunswick and Lunenburg, Arch-Treasurer and Prince-Elector of the Holy Roman Empire etc., and of the United States of America. End quote. This completely contradicts the premise that America won the War of Independence 7 years prior. Article 5 of that treaty gave all British estates, rights and properties back to Britain. Quote, "It is agreed that Congress shall earnestly recommend it to the legislatures of the respective states to provide for the restitution of all estates, rights, and properties, which have been confiscated belonging to real British subjects, and also of the estates, rights, and properties of persons resident in districts in the possession on His Majesty's arms and who have not borne arms against the said United States. And that persons of any other description shall have free liberty to go to any part or parts of any of the 13 United States and therein to remain 12 months unmolested."